Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Friday afternoon. Just some wild news coming out of the recruiting trail. Four-star linebacker Izayia Williams flipping his commitment from Florida to Ole Miss. And what I think a lot of people in the industry are very surprised at this news. Normally, when you see flip commitments like this, you kind of get a sense that this might be building up. I think this took Florida fans by surprise. I think this took Ole Miss fans by surprise. And I think it's, worth noting right off the bat here that this is now his fifth different commitment that he's made in the 2026 cycle, right? Committed to Louisville back in 2023, flipped his commitment to Syracuse, flipped his commitment to Florida State, flipped his commitment to Florida, and now he's flipped his commitment to Ole Miss. Now, if you're an Ole Miss fan, this kid can play. He actually eerily reminds me of Suntarine Perkins in terms of a juiced up front seven defender that can play off ball linebacker, that can rush the passer off the edge. A lot of different things you can do with Izayia Williams. Like, to me, one of the better run and chase linebackers that you've seen in the 2026 cycle. And you look at where college football is today, these are the kind of athletic profiles that you want at the off-ball linebacker position. With all these offenses trying to spread you out and play speed and space, you want linebackers that can fly around the football field, go sideline to sideline, run and chase and tackle. And Izayia Williams is one of the better ones in the country at doing that in the 2026 cycle. For Ole Miss, that's a sneaky conversation that I don't think enough people in the national media are having. I think when we look at Ole Miss, when we talk about Ole Miss, it's just, hey, they're doing a great job in the transfer portal, of which is true, right? It's been very clear, and Lane Kiffin's made it very clear that Ole Miss is going to be a very big player every single cycle in the portal. We've seen them do it pretty much as long as Lane Kiffin's been there. They've also recruited the high school ranks better than most people give them credit for in terms of, you go back to 2025, top 15 class in the country, 2024, top 20 class in the country, 2023, top 20 class in the country. They don't take super big high school classes. They do build their roster through the transfer portal as well, but they don't slack on the high school recruiting trail either. And they're going to rely on a bunch of guys in the 2025 season that were recruited to Ole Miss out of high school. Lane Kiffin doing a solid job building this roster through a variety of different ways. I think Ole Miss fans should be fired up about Izayia Williams. And I think Ole Miss fans are probably like, wait and see. Like, let's see what happens in the beginning of December when it's come time to sign the papers. For the Florida Gator fans, of which I'm sure many are checking this out too. Like, what does this mean for Florida in the 2026 cycle? They're down to one commitment, quarterback Will Griffin, who committed around this time last year. We'll get into it a little bit more. I don't think it's time to panic. Obviously, Florida fans remember 12 months ago, we were in a very similar situation. And then Florida catches fire late in the 2025 cycle, ends up signing a top 10 class. I think there are some reasons for why Florida has started slow in the 2026 cycle, of which we'll get into. Before we get into this a little bit more, just want to say thank you to you guys, whether you're an Ole Miss fan, whether you're a Florida fan, whether you're just a college football fan that follows the recruiting trail. Would love to hear how you guys are feeling about this one in the comment section. I certainly, when I saw it on my phone, I did a double take there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's start from an Ole Miss perspective. And look, I think the success that Ole Miss has had with Suntarine Perkins, I think probably helped Ole Miss land this commitment where you're selling Izayia Williams that, yeah, you're going to come and be a really good off-ball linebacker, but we're going to allow you to really make a difference as a front seven defender at Ole Miss. Like, look at what we do with Suntarine Perkins, the different ways that we use this kid in the front seven. That's the role that you can play when you come to Ole Miss. And for a guy like Izayia Williams, who no doubt thinks that, hey, I can have a big time impact on this football team, that was probably appealing. Like, very, very good win for Lane Kiffin and the staff on the recruiting trail. And you're Ole Miss. Now, I think the 2026 class, I think, could be a good one for Ole Miss, because you look at, all right, you land Izayia Williams. It's a very, very talented in-state group of kids in the state of Mississippi. You're trending for one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Landon Duckworth. If you're Ole Miss looking at, hey, what this class can be in 2026, along with what Ole Miss has continued to do in the portal, I think Ole Miss fans should be fired up, especially about a guy like Izayia Williams, who, say what you want about the 5 commitments. This kid can play. Like, I think he's going to be a good football player wherever he plays his college football over the next couple of years. Now, for the Florida fans, what does this mean for Florida in the 2026 cycle? Down to one commitment, right? Will Griffin committed around this time last year. Is it frustrating that Florida has started as slow as they have in the 2026 cycle? Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how much momentum Florida seemed to have to finish the 2025 cycle. Flipping a guy like Onis Konanbanny, flipping a guy like Laganza Hayward, landing a guy like Dallas Wilson. I mean, Florida in the month of December was the hottest team on the recruiting trail in the country. And I think a lot of Florida fans were excited to see, hey, what is 2026 going to look like if Florida can kind of roll through that momentum? Obviously has not happened the way a lot of Florida fans would have wanted it. I think there are a couple of different reasons for this. I think the biggest reason probably has to do with and there are a lot of programs who are in this situation right now that are, kind of waiting for the courts to give a little bit more clarity in terms of what revenue share is going to look like, in terms of what roster limits are going to look like. You don't want to unload the chamber in your 2026 cycle early if you're not really sure what some of the parameters of your roster building can look like. Michigan's in a very similar boat. You're seeing a lot of teams across the country kind of in that similar boat where it's like, hey, we're out here recruiting these kids at a high level, but we're kind of waiting to talk official numbers. We're kind of waiting to take commitments until we get a little bit more clarity. I think that certainly is playing a role. And I think secondly, I think Florida is going to be just fine. We've talked a lot of Florida on the recruiting trail over the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk a lot about Florida on the recruiting trail in the summer months with these official visit weekends starting to kick off in the next month. I look at it and say, Florida's got a lot of talent coming to campus over the next couple of weeks and months. And they've already had a lot of talent come to campus over the last couple of weeks and months. I think the commitments will come. And I think if you're a Florida fan, that 2025 season where we expect Florida to be a very good football team is kind of the focal point. I mean, if Florida and Billy Napier have a lot of success, I would expect some commitments to pile up for Florida. This is kind of an inflection point season, and there might be some players that are kind of waiting to see, hey, what does this 2025 version of the Florida Gators look like before I'm ready to jump on board. We'll see how it plays out. Very similar to last year when Florida started getting hot on the football field, those commitments started to pile in. Might see something similar in the 2026 cycle as well. It's frustrating for Florida fans, no doubt about it, especially with this one, the fifth different flip commitment from Izayia Williams. Ole Miss fans should be fired up about it. But if I'm a Florida fan, I'm definitely not panicking yet. I'm going to let the summer months play out and really let's see how this class looks like when it's time to sign the papers in early December. We'll pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. There are going to be a lot more wild storylines like these coming down the pipeline over the next couple of days, and we're not days, weeks and months. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.